Welcome back to another Spirit Island video. In this video, I'm going to be continuing my heat guide, this time talking about my 10 final tips for the spirits. Now, the first tip is G3 is key. Remember, this G3 is going to be doing everything for you. Placing presence on the tracks, generating energy, and also gaining those power cards. It is also important to point out that leading with G3 is going to allow you to grow into all of the different openings that I've talked about in the previous videos. Do you want to go G3 bottom into G2 top, playing for majors? Do you want to G3 bottom, G2 bottom, play for the fast tempo build? Or do you just want to be very safe and just constantly G3 like I do, all the way down bottom track, accumulating all of that energy and power cards, and eventually winning in that mid to late game with the Spirit? So leading with G3 opens up so many avenues to play the Spirits. Tip number 2, draft primarily for effects, not elements. You'll have plenty of opportunities to draft on element cards later in the game. And this is something that I always recommend with all spirits. You're looking at what does the card do first. Then you're going to look at, is it going to impact my innates or future major thresholds in the game? And with heat, you're really looking for those defensive cards. Having a defend on the spirit goes a long way because it delays how frequently you have to use your skip. In addition, remember, we are looking for that earth card so that we can hit these innates. And the chance of hitting a zero cost earth in 4 drafts is 92.8%. The chance of hitting any earth card in 4 drafts is 98%. And I've already talked about this 98% number in the opening video. Now, remember I mentioned the fast tempo build, the build where you G3 bottom and then you G2 bottom. In this build, we're looking for a zero cost fire on that first draft of the game, and the chance of getting that first, that zero cost fire on that first draft is 48.4%. So you have almost a 50% chance of getting that, that zero cost fire needed to play that fast tempo build. Now, once again, if you're leading with a G3 build, you can always pivot to a G2 top build or a G2, G2, or I guess a G3, and then G2 build. So you don't have to play the fast tempo build. And that's the point I'm trying to make here. Okay, so tip number 4, so that was tips 2 and 3. Tip number 4, defensive tools can go a long way and complement the kit greatly. Cards like Nature's Resilience and Carapace Land can not only enable your innate, they have the earth, but they can also defend the island in the early game and get those favorable counterattacks. So cards like Carapace Land, one of the best defenses in the game, or Nature's Resilience. These are some very strong defensive tools. I love them. There are some other very interesting defensive tools as well, like Elusive Ambushes, if I can get it. This is one of the fire defense. Could be great to hit these innates early on in the game. There's also Primal, another very powerful defensive tool. There's also Roiling Bog. It's crazy, I'm just kind of pulling this out of memory. Roiling Bog, another zero cost fire that also has the defend. So lots of very powerful defensive tools, and I tend to look for at least one of them with the spirit. Tip number 5, Gift of Searing Heat should be used for energy primarily. The alternative option costs the spirit 1 energy to do 1 fast damage. That's essentially costing you 3 damage for 1 damage. So, or 3 energy for 1 damage. So you have Gift of Searing Heat here. This is the card I'm talking about. It's going to give another spirit 2 energy, or they can pay an energy to do a damage. So that's essentially, if you're not gaining energy, that means you're paying the energy. So it's 3 energy for 1 damage. You pretty much never want to do this. I mean, there's going to be rare cases where it will matter. But really, what makes this card amazing is this top part, being able to give another spirit 2 energy. Very, very powerful card. Tip number 6. Stinging Sandstorm reminder text is important as it allows you to reduce invader health immediately, destroying a town. It also lets you move presence around so you can set up those sacred sites and to enable your special rule. So once again, Stinging Sandstorm is a perfect element card. It's gathering up to 1 of your presence. And there's that reminder text there. It says, if this power makes a sacred site, your special rule immediately gives the invaders -1 health, which may possibly destroy an invader, so destroying that town. So if you have a land that has a presence here, and I use Stinging Sandstorm, I'm going to do 1 damage here. I'm going to move a presence in. As soon as I create that sacred site, my special rule takes into place, and that invader will die because it has -1 health, but the damage is already on it, so it just immediately gets destroyed. And Stinging Sandstorm plus your G3 is going to be how you access lands and set up those sacred sites for your special rule as well as your innate. And this is how you're going to access those jungle wetlands, because remember, your G2 hits sands and mountains. Tip number 7, Sweltering Exhaustion is a powerful Ravage skip, but don't forget it can skip builds too. I sometimes use this to skip city builds near the end if I'm trying to close out the game, or I'll use it to skip town builds in the early game to help facilitate that pocket. And once again, that is your Sweltering Exhaustion. This is a card that can skip ravages and builds, so you may use it proactively in the early game, skipping that build action and stopping that town from popping up. So for instance, if I have a land like this, I might use it here to stop this build. So now I can just let the Dahan ravage and clear it. Now it's not always going to work like that, but it could, or you could get very far ahead that way. Think about like Sweden, for instance. And then of course it has that ravage skip text, which makes it very, very powerful against those those big built up lands like a G2. And against G2 versus Scotland, or maybe you're playing against Sweden and you have a lot of buildings in your land 4 that needs to be skipped. So very versatile card. Tip number 8. Heat falls into the category of spirits that control all of the invaders into a single land and then uses a nuke to wipe them all out. And this is going to be analogous to spirits like Vengeance and River. And that is using Call on Herders to gather invaders all into a land, and then you're going to hit that land with this big nuke. And that is very similar to what River does. River is going to be using that wash away ability, or wash away card, and then using the innate to nuke. Vengeance does that as well with a Plague Bearers, and then it has its damage nukes on the left and right. So it falls into that category of controlling invaders in the early game and then set up for the kill blow. Tip number 9. You have 5 plays. And this is going to allow you to flex and play those 0-cost support cards, those 0-cost fear cards. It gives you extra plays in the game that can allow you to get ahead of the invaders. When you're stuck on 4 plays, you don't really have those flex cards that you can play. 5 plays, you always do, and that's one of the benefits you get for playing Heat. And finally, tip number 10. Your max innate combined in a sacred site is going to kill a maximum of 4 cities. And just some quick math. So you have any land, it can have a million towns, a ton of explorers, but because of how this innate is written, it's going to kill a max of 4 cities. Now, of course, if you have Badlands, that is going to increase this number. Or maybe if you have invader health is decreased, then you might, I guess they'll completely wipe out the land. But you guys get the point. Remember, England, Habsburg, those are adversaries that are going to alter the health in the land. So this innate will not follow the rule that I'm mentioning over here. If you like this video, like, subscribe for more content. I will see you guys in the next video.